Hey guys, and welcome. This is episode 94, and in this one we'll be preparing a few diorama elements that will form part of our AH-64D Apache build. As you'll recall, in the previous video we did some diorama planning. I did a preliminary layout, and in this video I'll be preparing a few more figures as well as some diorama elements. Now guys, there's quite a lot to do, and I do apologize for the duration of this video. You know that I like to keep things short and to the point, but as you can see, quite a long list. First, I'll be adding some detail to a TV news camera in 35 scale, that's being from ICM. I'll also be detailing a TV news crew, two figures there, and then I'll be painting digital UCP, universal camo pattern, digital camo pattern. And I'll be following Calvin Tan's method in doing this. I'll be scratch building a reflective belt, known to my military friends as a PT belt. I'll also be painting and detailing Vallejo wooden pallets, and then finally painting and detailing a rusty field drum. So guys, that's what's coming up in this video. But first, a word from the sponsor. If you've been following the series, you'll know that the TACOM Apache kit that I've been building is available on special at Supernova Studio. And do stay tuned for the promo code at the end. Guys, so this is the kit from ICM that I'll be using, Journalists in War, a beautifully detailed figure kit. The sort of quality that we've come to know ICM for. I'll be using two figures from this kit, a camera operator and a journalist. So this is the paint diagram. You can see that there's the two figures. Also included in this is a very nice molding of a TV camera, and I'll be adding some extra detail to this. Now, having run a corporate video business for the past few years here in South Africa, I have some experience of this type of work, and it certainly helps to have the tools close by as references. Guys, I'm not doing a full paint tutorial in this one. If you go to episode 90, you will recall that I painted the pilot figure. You can refer to that. Mainly, I'll be adding some detail to this TV camera. So that's the dry fit of the figure with the camera. Tricky fit around the arms there. I wanted to add some detail. The first being these antennas to the camera, as well as some decals, some pressed decals on the back of those vests, and of course the Kevlar helmets that I can see in my reference picture. So there you can see I'm adding the antennas to the back of the camera, and I've also scratch built a camera light, something that I personally would have on a camera if I had a choice. And this is all the extra detail then that I scratch built on the existing kit part. This is now ready for paint, and as always I start with a good quality primer, this one being from Mr. Hobby, my go-to primer these days. Now this will also be the base color. I'm going to use the primer black as the base color. You can see there's the base color done, and next is some dry brushing with Vallejo neutral grey. Very careful there not to break off the scratch build detail that I just added, just lightly dry brushing the grey. Next is some detail painting with a very fine detail brush, just adding all the different colors there to the connectors, the switches, and all the other detail. You can see there's the camera, all the detail painting done, and certainly looking the part. However, I'm not done with this yet. In reference pictures, I can see the Panasonic and the P2 HD logo, and those will have to be painted in as well. And here I used one of the AK paint markers. You'll recall in a previous video I used those as well. So guys, this is the completed camera then, the P2 news gathering camera, and this is now ready to go onto the figure. Now for the figure, I wanted to add the press placards, or the press labels to the front and the rear of his vest. These I printed myself, decals that I designed in Photoshop and then printed on a laser printer on a decal paper. And I followed the normal procedure of applying decals using some setting solution, microset and microsol. And this certainly does a lot to add some realism to our camera operator, our news camera operator. Next up is the second figure, this female reporter with a microphone and the Kevlar helmet. And again, I'm following the same method as I did with the female pilot figure. You can see there's the completed figure, reporter figure. And I did a quick mock-up just to test my layout. This will be the little interview scene that we will have in our diorama. Certainly happy with that. Those three figures. And with this done, I can move on to two more figures. These will be military figures, and I'm using this kit from Trumpeter, two figures from this kit. Now these figures from Trumpeter are a bit rough. They're not the same standard as ICM and the resin figure. However, with a lot of work and some effort, these can certainly be turned into a reasonable result. Again, starting with a good primer coat. And there you can see there's the completed face, and also refer to video 90, where I did some face painting. I followed the same procedure, painting these two figures. You can see there's the two heads. That's always the hardest part to me for any figure build. Next up, I'll have to do some camouflage on these bodies, the figure bodies. Now, the camouflage pattern I'll be painting is universal camouflage pattern, a digital pattern, very controversial, and eventually replaced because it simply wasn't effective in natural areas. Now, I'm very fortunate to have an actual example. This I picked up in a surplus store in Texas recently, and this is very helpful to determine colors. Guys, now the method for painting this is not my own. This comes from the brilliant mind of Calvin Tan. I'm a big fan of this man's work. You can look at his blog, Perspectives in Miniature, and he's got an excellent tutorial there on painting digital patterns. And instead of trying to paint individual pixels, which would be nearly impossible in 35 scale, he concentrates on groups of pixels. So the colors I selected here, neutral gray for the dark, and then deck tan for the lighter pixels. We'll only need two colors for this method. You'll need a very fine detail brush, and for this I'm using this brush from the Vallejo Pro Modeler range. Excellent detail brush, highly recommend it. Guys, you'll also need magnification. Do not strain your eyes. I like this one from Tamiya because it fits over my prescription glasses. Highly recommend it. This is also my first time using a paper palette from Zuke Mura, and this is an alternative to using your wet palette. This is sort of a wax type paper, and as you can see there, you can actually use fluids like water and paint on it. It doesn't run through, and this is what I use to do the detail painting. Taking my detail brush, keeping the paint thin, and then working from there. So there you can see, very laborious process of adding those groups of pixels in both horizontal and vertical running lines. And guys, this is not something that you rush. This is something you take your time with. It is going to take a while, but as you'll see in the end, the end result certainly justifies the time and effort that you're going to spend on doing this. I'm really impressed with how clever this technique from Calvin is. When viewed from a distance, similar as would happen in real life, you can actually see the digital pattern, and you see groups of pixels instead of individual pixels. So this is actually quite brilliant. I love this technique. When you do this, be aware of seams around pockets and also on the uniform itself. So there you can see the shirt has been completed, and viewed from a distance, this certainly gives the correct impression. Next is just outlining some of the detail, like the pockets, using a NATO black and a very dark shade of grey. Now next are these folds. I don't want to kill my pattern that I spent so much time on, so I'll have to be very careful in approaching this. I'm going to use my airbrush and some dark sea grey, and I'm carefully going to darken these fold areas using my airbrush. And then next I'm going to use deck tan and a Vallejo dry brush, and just carefully dry brush the raised detail on those folds. Now guys, when you do this, be aware of seams around garments, trousers, shirts, and arrange your camouflage pattern around that. That will add extra realism. Last step, of course, being just to outline some of the seams, some of the pockets, the cargo pockets. And when we're done with this, we have a very realistic looking figure in universal camo pattern. I'm certainly loving this. Brilliant method from figure painter Calvin Tan. The last detail to add are these Velcro shoulder pockets. Now, of course, this is a BDU cut uniform, and we'll try our best to turn this into something resembling the current ACU uniform. I'm again using kitchen foil, and you can go back to video 58 for some more information how I work with kitchen foil. First step, of course, being to measure properly the size of the shoulder pocket that we'll have to scratch bolt, and then just using a tiny piece of kitchen foil, folding the top over for that pocket, and there we go, 2 shoulder pockets. We'll need 2, 1 for each shoulder. Next up is some grey paint, dark grey, and when this is done, a little bit of gel type super glue will glue this to the shoulder of our figure. The American flag needs to be painted on by hand. For this, again, I'm using my Vallejo fine detail brush. It requires a steady hand, of course. And as I said at the beginning of this video, with a little bit of time and effort, you can certainly turn these trumpeter figures into useful elements for your diorama builds. Next up is the second military figure. This will be our aircraft maintainer or mechanic. You can see they're already painted. These trumpeter figures have issues, and the back of these trousers are devoid of any detail. So to hide that, I'm going to use a reflective belt known to my military friends as a PT belt. I'll make this from 2mm masking tape and some fluorescent yellow paint from Mr. Hobby. Now to paint this, I'm using a little jig that I built myself, very simple, and I then use my airbrush just to airbrush the fluorescent yellow color onto the masking tape. And just to add some realism, I also added a few buckles from some leftover photo etch. That certainly helps to sell the look. This is now super glued onto the maintainer figure. This is the final result. Certainly liking our mechanic. Of course, a mechanic will need tools, and for this I'm using this tool set from Alliance Model Works. Now this is quite cool. This is connectionless, meaning it's on a adhesive backing, and just be very careful not to lose stuff when you remove it from there. So there we go, a wrench, a screwdriver. I'll probably add some more to the Apache later when I assemble the diorama. This is painted with Alclad steel. So guys, there we go. That's our maintainer working on that open engine bay on the Apache, and certainly coming together very nicely. That is the last of the figures for this build. You'll recall that when I did the planning for this video, I added some wooden pallets as well as some fuel drums, and that is up next. For this, I'll be using these two kits from Vallejo wooden pallets and modern field drums. The wooden pallets are quite cool. They are made from actual wood, I believe balsa wood, and because of this there is already wood grain. If you look carefully there on your screen you can see it, and this is something I'd like to enhance. I'll be using Wash for Wood from MIG Productions, and this is thinned with MIG Productions' own enamel thinner. Very easy to apply. Use a broad brush and just start applying this to the wooden pallet. You'll see the balsa wood soaks this stuff up like there's no tomorrow, and that's exactly what we want. Apply this top and bottom, and this is the result. Now at this point the wood looks a bit pale, so I wanted to color it a bit. And for that, I'm going to use two colors from Vallejo. First is Natural Wood Grain. First, the lighter color. This is very lightly sprayed on with my airbrush. And next, I use a darker wood grain, also from Vallejo. Also airbrushed onto that palette. I kept the paint very thin, so as not to completely cover the palette. Next, I'm using a dry brush, the medium-sized dry brush from Vallejo, and some German camouflage beige. This is a color that I use for a lot of things. And I now start dry brushing the edges of this wooden palette. You can see there, bringing out those edges very nicely. Now this is where we are at present. I'd like to add some more detail, and for this I'll be using a paint marker from AK Interactive. You'll recall that in video 91. I covered these markers. Very useful indeed for precision work, such as detailing these pallets. Very useful for highlighting the edges of those individual planks that make up the pallet. Guys, so there's the final result. Certainly happy with that, and this will make a nice addition to our Apache Diorama, those two wooden pallets. Now, if you recall in the previous episode, this footage generously supplied by my friend Braillescale, there's some makeshift airfield markings visible in his footage. Now, I don't have those cement walls, but I do have these resin fuel cans from Vallejo, and I'll be using one of them for makeshift markings. First, apply a coat of primer, black primer. And when this is done, I'll use a metallic color, this being Alclad steel, just to give the steel a base color for this fuel drum. Next, I'd like to apply some rust using this light rust from the Panzer Aces range from Vallejo. This is applied with the sponge technique. You can see there's the result. Now, before I apply the chipping medium, just protect the paint with micro flat. My chipping medium of choice is again from Vallejo, and again the dilution ratio 1 drop of chipping medium and 2 or 3 drops of tap water. You have to count the actual drops to get this accurate. This is sprayed onto the field drum with the airbrush and left to dry, and once it's dry I can apply my base color, this being white grey from Vallejo Model Air. Now with the drum being white, I can now apply a number, and for this I'm using one of the stencils from Vallejo, and again some nice bright orange color. You can see they're stenciled onto the side of the drum. I'll now have to do the chipping. For this I'll need some water, some toothpicks, and a hard bristle brush. This is actually a stippling brush that I just cut shorter. The surface is moistened, and then I use the brush and the toothpicks just to start chipping the paint, the white paint on this drum. You can see very effective at creating a worn, rusty look on that barrel. So there we go. This is the paint chip, and being metal, I'd like to add some rust. First up is a rust wash from Vallejo. Guys, keep in mind that acrylic washes are water-based, they're not enamel-based. So to clean this up, you need to remove the excess as soon as possible. this is the current state of progress. I'd like to add some streaking rust next, and for that I'll be using one of the orange, the rust colors from this Uptailing oil paint set. Faded dark yellow in this case. This is first applied with a fine brush to specific spots on that field drum. Just little spots of oil paint. And once this is done, I'll be using odorless thinner just to do the actual streaking. For this, I take a brush, moisten it with the odorless thinner, and then in downward movements, I just start streaking that oil paint. And you can see there, once you start working the paint, certainly creating a very realistic effect on that field drum. So there we go, guys. That is the makeshift airfield marking on this field drum, and this will be a nice addition to our Apache diorama. I think I'll probably paint another barrel to add to the diorama. A second barrel, I'll sleep on it, but this one certainly does the trick. So guys, there we go. These are the 7 diorama elements, 8 diorama elements if you count the 2 pallets, and these will be a nice addition to our Apache build. Please join me in the next video when I'll be painting and detailing these HESCO barriers from Fallout models. Really, no Afghanistan diorama will be complete without these barriers. Guys, you still have the opportunity to order this very nice Apache kit from TACOM from Supernova Studio. If you use the promo code Longbow2601, you will get a 15% discount. There is still one kit left in stock, and the question is, who is going to be the lucky owner of this last Apache kit? Guys, thank you for joining me. Again, follow me on Instagram. I post frequent updates on all my builds there, and you're guaranteed not to miss a single thing. Thank you for watching.